Hey y'all, welcome to Right Choice Shearing. This is the second of 8 sheep in this condition. The owners of this flock have been through a lot in the last several years, including a tornado hitting their house, it burned down, losses in the family, and a lot of other life struggles. During this chaotic time frame, they also had their shearer retire. So that means that these animals missed their fall shearing because they couldn't find anybody to take care of them. They did the diligent thing and got onto our list. When I arrived, I anticipated it was going to be 3-minute shearings, and it turned out being 3 to 5 times that on every sheep. We were out there for about 4 hours and removed over 170 pounds of mats. I had to stay focused on what I was doing because I needed to beat the heat and get these sheep on their feet. I definitely had my work cut out for me in this job, but I had sharp gear, no fear, so let's see what it took to get out there and shear.
Look at the back of his head.
Oof. Right away, I can see this guy is going to be a complete and total mess.
Ooh, buddy.
His entire fleece is just sections of rock-hard mats. The belly is the best thing to remove to gain entry to the rest of the sheep, but with matting like this, it's hard to maneuver. And for the boy sheep, there's something precious hidden in the center. To an untrained eye, the pizzle is easily missed. So adding in castrated males or wethers definitely adds a little spice to the day. We cleared the belly without complications, but entering into this first hip isn't going to be as easy. I slowly just work and work and work and work the mats until finally they start peeling away. Those little red spots along the leg are not from my shears, but from fly bites. He has the same bites along the bases of his horns, but causing nicks to an animal in this condition is a simple task. This wool is easily twice the weight of what it normally should be. That means that it makes the skin do weird stuff too, like tent and create what I call a tension wrinkle. And because the way the mats are formed together, it's impossible to maneuver this thing. I'm having to switch from a 13-tooth comb to something that has larger gaps, called a 9-tooth comb. The more space between the teeth should let me chew through this wool a bit better, but the safety slider decreases. Bigger gaps mean more room for skin and even tendons. But because of the high heats and the bog from trying to cut through these mats, my handpiece is on fire. Less teeth equals less friction, and we need that right now. Plus, we're actually making headway on getting through this mat. And this thing is no flippin' joke. Look at the felted line, followed by a crust of lanolin. I turned off my shears so I could figure out how I'm going to tackle getting through this rock-hard neck. I feel so bad for him because you can see in the breaks where the wool is just pulling on his tender little skin. It is pretty rare for me to come across an animal that has clumps of matting as fiber, and all those little lines and breaks in the clump are the only way this poor guy can even move. I mean, at least he can graze and lay down still, but gosh, that has to hurt as it pulls on his poor little skin. In some parts of this, there's no natural break, so I have to start cutting through the mat itself. That's a beautiful new move that I've never used before. Maybe I should put it in my How to Shear an Overgrown Sheep book that I hope I never have to write. Watching this back is honestly moving. While I'm working, I'm only paying attention to about a 3 square inch area. I don't get the vantage that an onlooker would receive. I often don't get to enjoy the satisfying part of it, and in this case, I didn't realize the severity of how the mats moved. It's giving me a speechless effect. There's nobody who's into shearing because it's an easy job. It's incredibly physically demanding, and they say that the muscles are just for show, and what really matters is what's in the mind, because trying to tackle a task like this is mentally exhausting. My drive to do this is my desire to share my skill with people who need it, and to give the animals that pass through my hands and sit in my lap the best experience I can manage. For me, that means low stress and as few nicks as I can get away with. But I'm not perfect, and these are far from perfect sheep. I can very logically understand why a nick might happen in a situation like this. Poor conditions or not, I put the expectations of high quality on myself. I try my damnedest not to nick any animal, and when I make mistakes, I carry that with me. I've needed the 9s this far, but it's time to get back to some safer gear. The 13-tooth comb can move through the wool with a little more confidence than a wide 9-tooth, and we still have a long ways to go. This mat is literally peeling off of this sheep in one huge piece. This job is a learning experience for me. It came after the day I shore 25 overgrown sheep at one job and 6 at another job, removing 250 pounds of matted fleeces that day. Many people don't realize that shearing is like a dance. It has a pattern that you follow and is supposed to be completed in a rhythm. That rhythm gently rocks the sheep during the process and allows the shearer to continually move. So when facing unideal circumstances where you have to stay in the same spot for an extended amount of time, the positions aren't designed for that. If a sheep becomes uncomfortable, it may begin to fight, and then we're facing heat stress. So the task for the shearer is to move efficiently, which you can see the mats complicate. And when the experience level of the shearing goes up, the time spent outside of the wool can also increase. If I'm not getting any smooth blows, I'm also not picking up the lanolin that they produce. It's a natural wax that keeps the environment near the skin in great condition but also lubricates my gear. You can see it in all the yellow patches that are left behind. That's the waxy buildup of lanolin. But this stuff's not just good for the gear, it's great for the sheep too. It not only keeps a hygienic environment under all of that wool, but if there's any nicks or scrapes or cuts, it acts as a natural antiseptic to help the healing process. There's no doubt I'm playing the game at expert level right now. The way these mats are formed into one giant sheet is a challenge that I've rarely faced. Both my shoulders are shot from maneuvering and moving hundreds of pounds of mats at this point. This shearing takes 14 minutes total, which means that it is 5 times longer than the high end of my average sheep. Think about how many times a sprinter could continuously go 5 times their average length, or if you were holding a plank for 5 times longer than usual. It has been an absolute grind to get to this point, but I finally see that finish line. The only problem is it's on the other side of this last hip. It's so thick down here, I really feel like the 9s would be the best way to tackle it. But my sheep would like me to hurry up and get it over with. I need to move this fleece though. He's laying on top of it, and that means that I can't get to the last side that I need. I have never had to pull an entire mat out from the other side of a sheep.
She's trying to get the mat out from underneath him so that it doesn't pull on his skin. I'm sure he feels a lot better.
Out of the entire sheep, this last part is the most difficult. I have no idea how to tackle the fact that he's laying on his own fiber, and the cost of figuring it out has been a few nicks. But I don't have time to think about it in that moment, and sitting here watching it back, I have to remind myself that I would rather have a few small nicks than have to carry around this tortoise shell of wool. And at the same time, I'm developing tactics for how I'm going to handle the next several sheep. I wear headphones to keep my mind clear of all the external chatter and help me focus on what my task is at hand. I can't hear what they're saying, but even if I could, I don't think I'd be paying attention because I am finally So close to being finished with this poor sheep. He's not very smooth, but I'm not going to take any more of his time. I'll see him in 4 months for a regular haircut and I'll clean him up.
I know.
Daisy, you are not doing it.
I know. He looks so big and.
She's trying to get over the.
19 pounds?
Yeah.
19 pounds?